So these are the top 10 legendaries to craft. I've been wanting to make this list for a while because a lot of the people that watch my channel are budget or returning players or new players, and they like watching me to learn stuff. So I'm going to teach you guys what the best legendaries to craft are. And I will admit, there are some legendaries that aren't on this list that if you want to craft a specific deck might be better. But these are the top 10 general legendaries to get you started. So the first one's going to be Drekthar. Drekthar is absolutely insane. Best card in the game without really much competition. Not only is he's the highest mulligan win rate, highest played win rate, he is kept a ridiculous amount of the time, and across the board, he is used in almost the most decks and has one of the highest deck win rates. Just statistically, he's insane. Not to mention the fact that if he gets nerfed, like a lot of people want, you'll get a dust refund. And the decks he goes in, because they're fairly aggressive, are pretty cheap. The two main ones are Quest Hunter, which as long as you have Drekthar and the Quest, your Quest Hunter will do pretty well. I mean, obviously Tavish and Raj are nice additions, but as long as you have Drekthar and the Quest, that deck's gonna win you games. And the same thing with the Demon Hunter. As long as you have Drekthar and the Kurtrus, yes, Lady Steno is a great way to add on more damage and win a couple more games, but as long as you have those two legendaries, you're going to be winning a bunch, way over 50%. So overall, I think that this card is really good. It's in several cheap decks, so you don't have to commit that much. If he gets nerfed, you get your dust back anyway, and you didn't have to give that much of a commitment. It's just honestly the best one. Kurtrus is next. Demon Hunter is really strong right now, and a large part of that is Kurtrus. Kurtrus gives you a new hero power that allows you to do 2 damage, as well as also reset the hero power so you could do even more than 2 damage sometimes. The battle cry is a great way to come back into the game and kill off giant threats if your opponent happens to have somehow gotten ahead of you. You're a Demon Hunter, your opponent should never get ahead of you, but if they manage to do it, this is probably one of the best comeback mechanics in the game. So yeah, overall, Kurtrus just fulfills everything a Demon Hunter could ever want. And every Demon Hunter deck right now runs it. Like every single one, except maybe like a Quest Demon Hunter, but there aren't really many of those out there. Next is going to be the Hunter Quest. The Hunter Quest, very similar to Drekthar, is as long as you pair it with one other legendary, again, most likely Drekthar, you'll be able to win games. The damage you do with it are just is just insane. Like, even control warriors a lot of the time can't gain enough armor to defend against 2 or 3 turns of constant rapid fire from your fully completed quest. Instead of running some of the legendaries, if you don't have everything, run maybe 1 or 2 or 3 extra draw cards or damage spells, and this will definitely give you a large win rate. Definitely about 50% even on its own. Next is going to be Lightforged Cariel. Lightforged Cariel is a card a lot of people dislike because of how powerful it is, and I genuinely think it's one of the best heroes out there. I think it, Kurtrus, and Guff are the 3 best. The ones that if you want to play those classes, you should probably craft those heroes. And the reason why Cariel is so good is because of the weapon. Only about 38% of the decks in the game run Rustdrop Viper. They have to draw it against you to actually make it useful against your hero. Not to mention the fact that your battle cry is basically a Consecrate, which can do extra damage, and your hero power to buff up Mr. Smite gives you a really solid win condition if you're playing a more control style paladin deck. So it's a pretty flexible card. It's got removal, it's got the potential for an OTK, it is also really good at protecting you, and if your opponent isn't running a Rustdrop Viper, they're basically just gonna cry as they slam you with a giant like 10 attack minion and only do 5 damage. So it's a really, really powerful card. And if you want to play Paladin, it's in most of the decks. Next one, though, is in my opinion the best hero card in the game, and that is Wildheart Guff. And the reason why I think Wildheart Guff is the best is just because of how it has warped the game around it. There have been a couple of nerfs to Ramp Druid, and a lot of people think Ramp Druid is kind of one of the decks to beat. That's why a lot of people were running aggro for a while. That's why aggro started gaining a lot of momentum, because everyone was trying to beat Ramp Druid and Wildheart Guff before it got out of hand. Wildheart Guff goes in every single Druid deck because 1, you can use it as a ramp engine, or 2, you can use it as a draw engine because your hero power can also draw you cards, not to mention that if you play it on 5, it gains you 5 armor, replaces itself, and gives you an extra mana crystal. It's just honestly an absolutely amazing card, and if a game, even if you're going more of like a Beast Druid, if a game goes on past 10 turns, it doesn't hurt to have above 10 mana. So it basically goes in every deck, and it's kind of broken the game in the sense that it can do things no other deck has ever been able to do. So it's fantastic. And also, I feel like this, I don't need to say this, but Some of these cards are class specific, so don't go crafting the Hunter quest and then expect to have a good warrior deck. And don't go crafting the Paladin hero and expect to have a good Demon Hunter deck. It just, obviously, some of these decks are class specific because not all of the neutral legendaries are good. And moving into this, we have Nelly, which is another class specific card. And Nelly is just probably the most versatile warrior card. It goes in control, it goes in charge, and it goes in pirate. Pirate, it's its late game win condition. And in charge and control, it's an alternative win condition. If you get Mr. Smite off of Nelly, you can just straight up win the game sometimes with your pirate value. Or you can use them to regain the board and fight for board against more of a mid-range matchup if you so choose. So overall, it's a very flexible card. I think it's the best Colossal in the game by a pretty wide margin. I think a couple of them are kind of close, like maybe the Leviathan and Gaia. But for the most part, this is the best Colossal minion in the game, so it felt weird to not put it on this list. And if you're playing Warrior, you should probably be running this card. Next is Mutanus. Mutanus is, in my opinion, one of the best neutral legendaries in the game because it can shut down these slower control or greedy decks. Yes, it's not always going to work against Demon Hunter. It will be a dead draw sometimes, but if you're playing a mid-range or control deck, you have to play Mutanus. You have to, because in some situations, it might be your only way of beating a Ramp Druid, and that's by eating their Kazakusan, or by eating, you know, what's it called? The quest reward, Tavish from Hunter. Sometimes they'll mistime it and they'll trigger their quest one turn early or something and can't play Tavish. Then you play Mutanus in the hopes of eating it and being a game-saving play. Not to mention, you can eat Tamsin if Warlock wants to combo. You can eat Mr. Smite for the Paladin combo. This is just a great combo stopper that pretty much every control deck and most mid-range decks need. And because of that, it needs to be on this list if you want to play control. Speaking of a great control card, Kazakusan. Kazakusan is great in a lot of different deck archetypes. All you have to do is play 4 dragons, and it's very easy to do in Paladin, in Druid, and Priest. And I've seen a couple more Priests recently, and Warrior, obviously. So those decks all can run Kazakusan, and if you want to run a control deck, most of them are going to have Kazakusan as their top end win condition. By putting treasures into your deck. So if you want to play control again, you kind of need Kazakusan. I'd say Kazakusan is a little bit more important than Mutanus, especially if you're like newer to the game or less skilled, because Mutanus can be amazing, even better in the hands of an absolute master. I'm not even saying I'm a master. I'm just saying like top 10 legend players who genuinely understand every aspect of the game and can calculate when the best time to play Mutanus is. Maybe if you're at that level, Mutanus is better. But to be fair, if you're at that level, you're probably not watching this video, and you probably have all the cards already. But for most people, Kazakusan's better, because as long as it doesn't get sniped, it's at least a fairly reliable win condition that's pretty easy to pull off. So I think Kazakusan is a little more important than Mutanus. Definitely a good card for control, not so much mid-range. So Mutanus could at least be okay in a few more mid-rangey decks, but Kazakusan is basically only control. Next is going to be Raid Boss and Nyxia. Again, an amazing card in a control deck. It can be used as a win condition on its own because it's technically 20 damage that you put on the board, with 8 of those stats being immune until they kill all of the other whelps. Not to mention the fact that if you completely kill up a board and leave up at least one whelp, they need to have at least 2 removal spells to deal with a Nyxia, because they have to kill the whelp first, then a Nyxia, which can be sometimes difficult for an opponent to do. And overall, I really like this deck. I really like this card. I don't know, just from a feel standpoint, it feels like one of those cards where it just feels good to play for 10 mana. Just boom, turn 10, slam it down, huge high impact board state. Really like this card. It's proactive-ish in a control deck, but a great way to come back into the game. It's just a really solid card, and it's a dragon, which combos well with Kazakusan, which goes in a lot of the same decks. And last is Queen Ashara. Good in mid-rangey combo-y decks where you're playing a lot of spells, because it just gives you a potentially alternative win condition. Like I could play in Curse Warlock and I can get the ring, right? So I can cast one more Curse or one more Altar Fire from it in a sticky situation. If in a mid-range deck, I could try to generate a Colossal minion to put pressure on the board. I can do damage if I'm a more aggressive deck by playing the weapon. If I need card draw, you got the Time Stone. I know it's Tidestone. I've just been calling it the Time Stone recently. You have that flexibility to draw some extra cards and maybe get some randomness in there to get you out of a sticky situation. It's just a really flexible, good card, and although not every deck will be able to cast 3 spells reliably, there are some mostly minion-based decks like Quest Warrior, and that's fine. But it's definitely a solid card if you want to try it out. So overall, those are the legendaries I would recommend crafting, not necessarily in that order. Again, some are better for more mid-range, some are better for more control, some are better for more aggro, and then some are more class specific. If you want to specifically go for a paladin collection, Carriel's probably better than Wildheart Guff. But this is just a good place to start off. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if you want me to literally list out every single legendary and be like, this is the order at which I'd craft them. Everybody is different, it's subjective. So these are the best ones just in general. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.